Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Process or result of distributing or extending over a wide expanse of space. Act of extending over a wider scope or expanse of space or time. The opening of a subject to widespread discussion and debate. Fully extended in width. Outspread wings. Strew or distribute over an area. He spread fertilizer over the lawn. Distributed or spread over a considerable extent. 11 million Jews are spread throughout Europe. Distribute or disperse widely. The invaders spread their language all over the country. Process or result of distributing or extending over a wide expanse of space. Become distributed or widespread. The infection spread. Act of extending over a wider scope or expanse of space or time. A tasty mixture to be spread on bread or crackers are used in preparing other dishes. Decorative cover for a bed. Cause to become widely known. Spread information. A conspicuous disparity or difference as between two figures. The spread between lending and borrowing costs. Farm consisting of a large tract of land along with facilities needed to raise livestock, especially cattle. Spread out or open from a closed or folded state. Spread your arms. Spread across or over. A big oil spot spread across the water. Two facing pages of a book or other publication. Become widely known and passed on. The rumor spread. A haphazard distribution in all directions. A meal that is well prepared and greatly enjoyed. They put out quite a spread. Move outward. Cover by spreading something over. Spread the bread with cheese. Prepared or arranged for a meal, especially having food set out. A table spread with food. The expansion of a person's girth, especially at middle age. She exercised to avoid that middle-aged spread. Distribute over a surface in a layer. Spread cheese on a piece of bread. The act of supplying fresh air and getting rid of foul air. The opening of a subject to widespread discussion and debate. A short excursion, a walk or ride, in the open air. He took the dogs for an airing. The opening of a subject to widespread discussion and debate. The act of dispersing or diffusing something. The property of being diffused or dispersed. The opening of a subject to widespread discussion and debate. Change location. Move, travel, or proceed, also metaphorically. We traveled from Rome to Naples by bus. Travel upon or across. Travel the oceans. Undertake a journey or trip. A movement through space that changes the location of something. Self-propelled movement. Make a trip for pleasure. The act of going from one place to another. He enjoyed selling but he hated the travel. Travel from place to place, as for the purpose of finding work, preaching, or acting as a judge. Undergo transportation as in a vehicle. We traveled north on Route 508. A movement through space that changes the location of something. The most direct or specific meaning of a word or expression. The class of objects that an expression refers to. The extension of satellite of Mars is the set containing only Deimos and Phobos. An addition that extends a main building. Amount or degree or range to which something extends. The wire has an extension of 50 feet. An addition to the length of something. The spreading of something, a belief or practice, into new regions. An additional telephone set that is connected to the same telephone line. An educational opportunity provided by colleges and universities to people who are not enrolled as regular students. A string of characters beginning with a period and followed by one or more letters. The optional second part of a PC computer file name. Most applications provide extensions for the files they create. Act of expanding in scope, making more widely available. Extension of the program to all in need. Act of stretching or straightening out a flexed limb. A mutually agreed delay in the date set for the completion of a job or payment of a debt. They applied for an extension of the loan. The ability to raise the working leg high in the air. The dancer was praised for her uncanny extension. The gears that transmit power from an automobile engine via the driveshaft to the live axle. An incident in which an infectious disease is transmitted. The fraction of radiant energy that passes through a substance. The act of sending a message, causing a message to be transmitted. Communication by means of transmitted signals. Any entry into an area not previously occupied. An invasion of tourists. Pathology. The spread of pathogenic microorganisms or malignant cells to new sites in the body. The tumor's invasion of surrounding structures. The act of invading. The act of an army that invades for conquest or plunder. A column of light, as from a beacon. Medicine. The treatment of disease, especially cancer, by exposure to a radioactive substance. Pavlovian conditioning. The elicitation of a conditioned response by stimulation similar but not identical to the original stimulus. Physiology. The spread of sensory neural impulses in the cortex. The apparent enlargement of a bright object when viewed against a dark background. The condition of being exposed to radiation. The spontaneous emission of a stream of particles or electromagnetic rays in nuclear decay. Syndrome resulting from exposure to ionizing radiation, e.g., exposure to radioactive chemicals or to nuclear explosions. Low doses cause diarrhea and nausea and vomiting and sometimes loss of hair. Greater exposure can cause sterility and cataracts and some forms of cancer and other diseases. Severe exposure can cause death within hours. He was suffering from radiation. Medicine. The treatment of disease, especially cancer, by exposure to a radioactive substance. A radial arrangement of nerve fibers connecting different parts of the brain. Energy that is radiated or transmitted in the form of rays or waves or particles. The act of spreading outward from a central source. The spread of a group of organisms into new habitats. The spatial or geographic property of being scattered about over a range, area, or volume. Spreading widely or driving off. The act of dispersing or diffusing something. The dispersion of the troops. The act of scattering. A light shower that falls in some locations and not others nearby. A small number, of something, dispersed haphazardly. The first scatterings of green. Spreading widely or driving off. The physical process in which particles are deflected haphazardly as a result of collisions. The act of dispersing or diffusing something. The diffusion of knowledge. The property of being diffused or dispersed. Physics. The process in which there is movement of a substance from an area of high concentration of that substance to an area of lower concentration. The spread of social institutions, and myths and skills, from one society to another. The act of scattering. Free movement or passage, as of cytoplasm within a cell or sap through a plant. Ocean circulation as an important part of global climate. Library science. The count of books that are loaned by a library over a specified period. Movement through a circuit, especially the movement of blood through the heart and blood vessels. Number of copies of a newspaper or magazine that are sold. By increasing its circulation, the newspaper hoped to increase its advertising. The dissemination of copies of periodicals, as newspapers or magazines. The spread or transmission of something, as news or money, to a wider group or area. The spread of power away from the center to local branches or governments. The social process in which population and industry moves from urban centers to outlying districts. The spread of power away from the center to local branches or governments. The act of dispersing or diffusing something. Strew or distribute over an area. Scatter cards across the table. The act of scattering. Move away from each other. The children scattered in all directions when the teacher approached. To cause to separate and go in different directions. She waved her hand and scattered the crowds. A haphazard distribution in all directions. Cause to separate. Distribute loosely. He scattered gunpowder under the wagon. Sow by scattering. Scatter seeds. The act of producing offspring or multiplying by such production. The spreading of something, a belief or practice, into new regions. The movement of a wave through a medium.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.